In this part of the game, I decided to work on the camera first, and I decided to make it a 3D camera that the player would move around using. When they turn left, it would turn slightly left, making it so it wouldn't turn abruptly. I would change this later down the line, but to a better system that was more rich and felt more natural, and I just kept expanding on it. On this part, I decided to start develop the entrances and exits for different levels. Even though I have one level, I decided to test that out because I knew that's gonna be a very used piece of code, and I would have it like already pre-planned when I start making levels. So what it basically does is it detects the player if it enters a trigger, and if it enters, it starts fading out to black. But in the meantime, it was going to load the scene and start looking for an exit node in the scene that it loaded, and if it spots it, it's gonna move the player towards it and then start the scene and let the player play. This happens in a very short amount of time, like third of a second-ish, and it allows for like multiple entrances and exits to different scenes without having to make several versions of the same scene. And it's really easy and really enjoyable to work with. In this clip, I was experimenting with the camera a bit more, and I decided so that it would start resetting after a few amount of time of idle time. It worked pretty well and it was pretty decent, but later on I discovered an even better method, and I decided to scrap it because it broke and conflicted with the other one. Here we see our character. Like, this is when I decided to add enemies, and right there we have an enemy that turns red when you hit him with a special attack. It's just a trigger hitbox, restarting and hiding and enabling. And when the enemy is killed, it turns into a puff of white particles, but right now there's no texture, so it's just a white square. But you get the idea of how it works. This is the special camera I was talking about earlier. It's a camera that moves with your mouse, kind of like modern third-person games, and it felt way better for this kind of gameplay. And it works way smoother and doesn't require like the rolling back of the camera and sitting back. Even though it was conflicting, but the control was even more flexible, so I decided for that. It's quite smooth, and now you can tilt, and because the attack and block power-ups, which I also added, are bound to left click and right click, it just feels natural to move around.